I'd always been cautious with money. Growing up, I learned early that if you didn't keep a close eye on every dollar, things could slip out of your control fast. My dad left when I was a kid, and my mom worked her ass off to keep us afloat. She never had time for herself. I think that's why I've always had a backup plan for everything. If there was a way out, I wanted to know it. I wasn't going to end up like my mom. Always struggling, always stressed, always a step behind. At 18, I enlisted in the military. I figured it would give me discipline, direction, and a steady paycheck. It did all that. I learned how to push myself harder than I ever thought I could. But after 4 years, I was done. I wanted something different, something that was mine. So, I came back to Ohio, got a loan, and started a landscaping business. It wasn't glamorous at first. I'd spend hours on the phone, cold calling customers, going door to door. Some weeks, it felt like I was barely scraping by. But I kept at it. I picked up jobs wherever I could. And I made sure I kept my crew reliable and my prices competitive. Slowly, the business grew. Word got around. I built my reputation on showing up when I said I would, working my ass off, and being honest. In the end, people respected that. Then there was Emily. I met her at a charity event her family ran, where they sold food to raise money for the community. She was behind the counter, laughing with her parents, and I just couldn't take my eyes off her. We started talking, and I knew right away she was different. Down to earth, funny, easy to talk to. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just was. We'd been together 3 years. I loved her. I could see us building something together, maybe even having a family one day. Emily worked at her parents' restaurant, helping out with the books, and she was every bit as hardworking as I was. She supported my business. She'd bring lunch to the job site sometimes, and the guys loved her for it. They respected her. I respected her. Her parents, Rosa and Antonio, were traditional, old school. They liked me, but they made it clear early on that they expected me to prove myself. Every time I saw them, there were questions. What was my long-term plan? Where did I see the business going? And I answered them, always with conviction, because I knew they wanted to hear that I wasn't just playing around. They wanted to know that I was serious about their daughter, and I was. They were tough on me, but I respected them for it. They weren't trying to scare me off. They just wanted to make sure I was good enough for her. Emily's parents, Rosa and Antonio, ran the best restaurant in town. You couldn't beat their food, and they'd built it from scratch, just like I was doing with my business. It was clear they'd put in the work over the years. They had that old-school ethic. No shortcuts, no excuses. I respected that. And the thing about them was, they didn't just give respect, they expected it. When I started dating Emily, I knew I'd have to prove myself, especially to them. The first time I met Rosa and Antonio, we were at that charity event, and they were running the food stand. Emily was there too, and she was working hard, moving like she'd been born into it. Her dad barely looked up from the grill, flipping burgers with one hand and running the stand with the other. But Rosa, she was different. She was watching me like a hawk, taking mental notes, sizing me up. She didn't come out and say it, but I could feel the weight of her approval or disapproval hanging in the air. After the event, they invited me to dinner at the restaurant. It wasn't the kind of place that had a menu. You just came in and trusted they'd serve you what was fresh that day. The food was incredible, but I wasn't there to stuff my face. I was there to be judged, and I knew it. Rosa asked me right off the bat what my long-term goals were. "What are you doing with your life, Ben?" she asked, not with any malice, but like she was trying to figure out if I had the guts to stick with something when it got hard. Antonio didn't say much, but he was always watching, his hands folded in front of him, like he was waiting for me to screw up. I didn't mind the questions. In fact, I respected them. They weren't asking because they doubted me. They were asking because they wanted to make sure I wasn't wasting their daughter's time. And they made it clear that they didn't care what I did as long as I did it with integrity. I told them about the landscaping business, about my plans to grow it, to make it something solid. I told them that I was in it for the long haul. They didn't just want words, though. They wanted results, and I respected that. Emily was always in the background, quietly supporting me, helping however she could. She worked the books at the restaurant, just like her parents had when they first started. But even with all the responsibility at the restaurant, she never hesitated to show up for me. Some days, she'd bring lunch to the guys on the job sites. It wasn't anything big, just sandwiches, some cold drinks, but the crew loved it. They respected her for that. One afternoon, After she'd brought us lunch, I caught a few of the guys joking around about how she made the best sandwiches, better than any of their wives. I could tell they didn't mean anything by it, but I smiled. It was good to see that kind of respect. They saw Emily for who she was. Hard-working, down-to-earth, never trying to impress anyone, always just doing her part. At home, it was the same. We'd spend time talking about our day, and Emily would listen when I talked about my plans for the business. She never acted like I was being too obsessed or too serious about it. In fact, she always pushed me to keep going, even when things were tough. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I wanted to build a future with her. Maybe we'd get married, maybe have kids one day. I didn't know for sure, but what I did know was that she was in my corner, and I wanted to be in hers. But the pressure from her parents never really let up. Rosa would still ask me about the business, sometimes over dinner, sometimes when I was just hanging around the restaurant. It wasn't like she was interrogating me, but she wanted to see if I was really serious. And I was. I'd do whatever it took to prove it. I didn't mind the pressure, not really. I just knew it was part of the deal. I wasn't only trying to impress Emily. I was trying to show her family that I was the right guy for her, that I was worthy of their trust, worthy of her. It wasn't an easy thing to prove, but I had time. Time to show them I could handle it all. The business, the work, the responsibility. Time to show them I wasn't going anywhere. I'd been working on a surprise for Emily, something big. Something I'd been planning for months, in the background, while everything else in my life seemed to stay the same. I'd been saving every penny I could, squirreling away money from the business, cutting out any unnecessary spending. I had a plan, and it was the kind of thing I knew would make Emily's eyes light up. I bought the house. It wasn't just any house. This place was a dream. Big, but not obnoxious, in a neighborhood where everyone had nice yards and well-maintained lawns. The kind of place people in town whispered about, the ones who had made it. I wasn't one to care much about appearances, but I knew this would mean something to Emily. It had everything she'd ever mentioned, whether in passing or when we were just talking about the future. The custom kitchen was exactly what she'd always wanted: big, open, lots of counter space, and a breakfast nook where we could sit and talk over coffee. I remembered her saying once how much she hated the tiny bathroom in our apartment, so I made sure the master bathroom was huge, with a walk-in shower and a soaking tub just like she'd dreamed of. The backyard had a deck, plenty of room for a garden, and a patio with space to entertain. It was the kind of place where we could have cookouts, invite friends over, and maybe, just maybe, raise a family. I didn't trust banks. Not fully. Not after the way things were growing up. So I bought the house outright, paid in cash. I didn't want to have to worry about a mortgage, interest, any of it. I knew it would be a gamble, having that much money tied up in one place, but I had a good feeling about it. This was for Emily. The hardest part was keeping it a secret. I told her I was just working hard, making the business stronger, that we'd eventually be able to afford something better. She believed it. But there were nights I stayed late, talking to the contractor, checking up on details, making sure everything was just right. I'd come home late and try to act casual, but I could tell she noticed. "Another late night?" she'd ask, glancing at me over the dinner table. "Just finishing up some paperwork," I'd say, brushing it off. Nothing big. Emily didn't ask much more after that. She trusted me. But my crew? They weren't buying it. They'd see me disappearing during the day, working late into the night, and they started to ask questions. "Ben, what's with all the late hours, man? You working on something else?" Mike, one of the guys who'd been with me since the beginning, raised an eyebrow one day when I stayed late at the shop. "Just business stuff," I answered quickly. "Nothing you need to worry about." They didn't press me after that. They could tell I wasn't in the mood to talk about it, and I wasn't about to ruin the surprise. So, I kept it quiet. My excitement was eating at me, though. Every time I saw Emily, I wanted to let it slip. I wanted to tell her how close we were to something big, something I'd built just for us. But I knew the timing had to be perfect. The plan was simple. After the wedding, after the honeymoon, I'd bring her to the house and show her everything. I'd make sure everything was ready, moved in, cleaned up, all set. I couldn't wait to see her face when she saw it. I pictured it over and over, her eyes wide, her smile that would stretch from ear to ear, the kind of smile I hadn't seen in a while, the one I hoped she'd have when she realized this wasn't just a house. This was the future I was trying to build for us. For real this time. But every day that passed without me telling her, the anticipation grew. The crew, Emily, even Rosa and Antonio, they'd all start to notice I was acting a little off. They probably thought I was just stressed about the wedding, and maybe I was, a little. But the truth was, I was already thinking past the wedding. I was thinking about the life we'd have after, and I couldn't wait to share it with her. Emily's bachelorette party was her idea. She'd been talking about it for months, so when she finally showed me the details, I knew it was going to be big. Vegas. I could tell she was excited, but as she started explaining everything, the price tag hit me like a punch in the gut. "You're spending how much?" I asked, glancing at the itinerary she had laid out in front of me. "Ben, it's Vegas. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I've been stressed about the wedding for months. I need to unwind." I wasn't a fan of it, not at all. I knew she'd been working hard, and I knew this trip was supposed to be fun, but it still didn't sit right with me. The amount of money, the flights, the hotel, the fancy dinners. It was a lot. "Yeah, I get it," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "But you're going to drop a ton of cash, on top of everything else we've already spent on the wedding. Are you sure that's necessary?" "I deserve it, Ben. I've been dealing with a lot lately," she said, her eyes soft, like she was trying to convince both of us. "I'll handle it." I didn't want to fight about it, not when we were already deep into wedding planning. She was right. She deserved a break. So I let it go, told her to go ahead and have fun. But then things started to feel off. The first red flag came when Emily started dodging questions from her parents about the trip. Rosa and Antonio were naturally curious. They asked her who was going, where they'd be staying, what they'd be doing. But every time Emily answered, she was vague, brushing off their concerns with little details, giving them half answers, avoiding any real specifics. I noticed it, and I didn't like it, but I kept quiet. It wasn't just her answers that bothered me, though. It was the way she was acting in the days leading up to the trip. She spent a lot more time on her phone, texting constantly, usually when I wasn't around. I'd walk into the living room, and she'd quickly hide the screen or swipe the messages away like she was trying to keep them from me. It wasn't like her. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, just pre-trip nerves. But the more I thought about it, the more uncomfortable I felt. The real kicker came when Emily started shopping for the trip. She picked out outfits I wasn't expecting. Expensive ones. Sexy ones. She showed me a dress, a tight, short black number, and I just stared at it. "You sure that's for a girl's trip?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I wasn't accusing her of anything. Not yet. But I couldn't help myself. Something felt off about it. She laughed, brushing me off like I was being ridiculous. "Ben, it's just Vegas. It's not a big deal." But it was a big deal. I knew her well enough to know that she didn't usually buy stuff like that. She wasn't one to go over the top, especially for something as simple as a weekend away. It made me wonder why, all of a sudden, she needed outfits like that. The deeper I dug into my own thoughts, the worse it felt. Little things started adding up. How she'd been distant lately, the late-night texts, the way she'd snap her phone shut if I came into the room. I tried to ignore it, but it felt like something was slipping through my fingers. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe this was just a pre-wedding stress thing, and she just needed some time away with her friends. But the more I thought about it, the more I wondered if I was missing something. There was a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Was I just being paranoid, or was there something I wasn't seeing? And if I wasn't seeing it, was I even really ready for what might come next? I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. I didn't want to think about the possibility that Emily wasn't being honest with me. But the signs, small as they were hard to ignore. I was on the job when I saw it, Emily's post from Vegas. She was at a pool, wearing that bikini she'd bought the week before, the one I thought was too much for a girl's trip. She looked happy, laughing with her friends. I didn't think anything of it at first, until I saw the guy in the background. Tom, her ex. The guy who I knew was trouble, the one she'd always talked about like he was a mistake from her past. He had a tattoo on his arm, one I'd seen 100 times on the photos she used to show me. I recognized it instantly. And there he was, standing behind her in that picture like he was part of the group. My stomach dropped, and I felt the color drain from my face. Something was wrong. I scrolled down, looking for more posts, and I found one. Then another. The more I looked, the more the pieces fell into place. There were photos of them together, laughing, drinking, close enough that it wasn't just friendly. They were too close. I saw the timestamps, the locations, all matching up perfectly with Emily's posts from the same pool, the same hotel. This wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't just a mistake. She was with him. And it wasn't just for a friendly catch-up. They were in Las Vegas together. I couldn't sit on it. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone. I called Joe, my best friend. I needed him to confirm what I already knew, but couldn't let myself believe. Joe, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but it came out tight, tense. I need you to check something for me. What's up, man? Tom, Emily's ex. He's in Vegas right now, and I need you to tell me where he's been. Look at his social media. I could hear the hesitation in Joe's voice. He knew Tom, too. We'd all heard the stories. Ben, are you sure you want to do this? I need to know, Joe. Just check. Please. There was a pause. Then I heard him typing on the other end. I sat there, staring at my phone, already feeling the weight of everything crashing in. I could feel the anger building, but I wasn't ready to let it out. Not yet. All right, Joe said after a minute. I see it. He's been posting a lot while he's been there. Some of the same places Emily's been posting about. Yeah, I know. I see the same thing. Joe's voice dropped lower, like he was treading carefully. Ben, it looks like they've been hanging out. A lot. And, well, man, it doesn't look like just friends hanging out. They're all over each other in some of these shots. You sure about this? Yeah, I'm sure, I said, my throat tightening. Look, I need more. Can you find any messages? Anything that might give me a better picture of what's going on? Joe paused again. I could hear him tapping away at his keyboard. Give me a minute. I didn't know what I was hoping for, but as the minutes ticked by, I knew what I was dreading. The confirmation. The thing that would turn my whole world upside down. Ben, Joe said finally, I found some texts. Public stuff. Tom's been posting screenshots of his texts with Emily. There's nothing too explicit, but the way they're talking? It's not friendly. Not at all. I felt like I was sinking. What are they saying? Joe read out some of the messages, and each one felt like a knife. Tom's asking about her trip, talking about how good it was to see her again, making jokes about picking up where they left off. She's responding, laughing it off, but it's too much. It's clear they're not just hanging out like friends. I closed my eyes, trying to push down the rising panic. The anger was there too, bubbling beneath the surface, but I was holding it in. I needed to be sure. I needed to gather all of it. So I kept going through the posts, the photos, the messages. I screenshot everything. Every post, every message. I saved the timestamps. I had it all, clear as day. I was going to confront her, but not until I had everything in place. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I needed to be prepared for whatever came next. When I finished, I sat there for a long time. The house was quiet. My stomach churned, but I couldn't bring myself to feel anything yet. Not fully. Not until I saw her. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, but I didn't want to let myself go down that road just yet. I wasn't going to make any moves until I had all the facts, until I had the proof. But the truth? The truth was already there, staring me in the face. And soon, I'd have to do something about it. I couldn't look at the photos anymore. It felt like I was staring at the same betrayal over and over again, but I wasn't ready to confront Emily yet. I needed to do something first, something that felt like it might bring a little sense of justice to this mess. I decided I wasn't going to keep this to myself. If she wasn't going to be honest with me, maybe her parents should know. I sat down at my desk and drafted the email. I didn't hold back. I laid out everything. How Emily had been lying about her trip, how she was spending time with Tom, and how I'd seen the proof for myself. Every detail, every post, every message. I didn't sugarcoat it, didn't try to soften the blow. Rosa and Antonio had the right to know the truth. They deserved it. I clicked send, then sat there staring at the screen. My heart pounded in my chest as I waited for their response. It didn't take long. My phone buzzed with an email from Rosa almost immediately. Ben, we are so sorry. We trusted her. We believed she was ready for this, for everything. But now, it seems we were wrong. Thank you for telling us. We are deeply ashamed of her actions. We hoped for a different future for her. A future with someone who would treat her well, someone who respected her. We thought you were that person. I read it twice, each word feeling like a punch. Rosa and Antonio had been nothing but kind to me. They'd wanted the best for Emily, and now this? The disappointment in their voices was clear, even through an email. They were crushed. I couldn't talk to them about it right now. I didn't want to cry over their disappointment or my own. What did it even matter at this point? I had my proof. I had the truth. And I was done. I took a deep breath and set my phone down. I'd spent the past few days thinking about what I was going to do next. The anger had been building in me, But now it was time to act. I couldn't stay in the apartment, not with everything that had happened. I wasn't going to wait around for Emily to come home and give me some lame excuse. I was done with that. I called Mike, one of the guys on the crew, and explained what was going on. "I need your help," I said, my voice flat. "I'm moving out. I need to get my stuff out of there, quietly. Can you help me?" He didn't ask any questions. He just said, "Yeah, of course. When do you want to do this?" "We'll do it tonight. I'll meet you at the apartment around midnight. Just make sure no one else sees us." He agreed, and I started packing my things up. It felt like I was in some sort of autopilot mode, just going through the motions. I threw clothes into boxes, grabbed the tools and equipment I didn't want to leave behind, and packed up everything that was mine. When I got to the apartment that night, Mike was already there. He brought a few other guys with him, and we got to work. We moved my stuff out fast, nothing too flashy, just me taking what I needed and nothing more. I didn't want to leave anything behind that might remind me of Emily. I couldn't even look at the couch we'd spent so many nights on, or the pictures on the wall of us on vacation, laughing in front of some random monument. I wasn't going to take any of that with me. At one point, Mike asked, "You want to leave anything for her? A note, something?" I shook my head. "No, she's not getting anything. I'm done." The last of my stuff was packed up, and I felt this strange sense of release. It wasn't just the weight of the physical belongings. It was the weight of everything that had been building up. The lies, the betrayal, the way I had been played. For the first time in days, I felt in control again. I wasn't the guy sitting in that apartment waiting for her to walk through the door and try to fix things. I wasn't the guy who was going to sit there and wonder why I wasn't enough. I was done. We loaded everything into the truck, and I made my way to the house, the one she'd never known about. It was mine now. I wasn't going to let her or anyone else take that away from me. When we finally got everything inside, I took a long look at the place. The custom kitchen, the backyard, the rooms I'd carefully chosen and designed. I built this for us, for a future I thought I had with Emily. But now it was mine, just mine. As I stood in the empty living room, I felt this strange sense of clarity. I wasn't angry anymore, not like I had been earlier. I wasn't confused, either. I knew exactly what I needed to do. The past few days had been some of the hardest of my life, but standing there, in that house I'd worked for, I realized I had a choice. I could let Emily's lies define me, or I could let this be the moment I took control back. I chose the latter. I'd rebuild, and this time, it would be on my terms. No more distractions. No more games. I wasn't the man I was when I moved in with Emily. I wasn't the man who trusted blindly. And I wasn't going to let this betrayal control my future. This was the first day of the rest of my life. And it wasn't going to have anything to do with her. I spent the next few days making the house my own. It felt surreal, like I was living someone else's life, but the weight of the silence in the house gave me a strange comfort. Every room I walked through reminded me of the future I'd once imagined, one that wasn't going to happen anymore. I set up the kitchen just like I had planned for her, but now it was just for me. I could almost hear her voice in the living room, calling me to come sit down, asking about dinner. But the only voice I heard now was mine, echoing in a house built for two, but occupied by one. It wasn't easy, but it felt necessary. I wasn't sure what I needed more, time to forget or time to rebuild. Maybe it was both. Either way, I focused on making the place feel like home. My home. I didn't have to consult anyone anymore. Didn't have to wonder what someone else wanted. It was mine. All mine. That didn't mean Emily didn't try to reach out. Her messages came in fast, one after the other. At first, I didn't respond. I knew I shouldn't. I needed space. I needed time to think. And I sure as hell wasn't going to let her think she could just smooth things over with a few texts. Her first message came that same night. "Ben, I miss you. Where are you? Can we talk?" I didn't reply. The next day, I got another one. "I'm sorry if I've hurt you. Please, just let me explain." Still, nothing from me. It kept going like that. Every few hours, another text. Then, "I think I need to extend my trip. I'll be gone longer than I thought." It felt like she was trying to buy herself time to make excuses. Maybe she thought I'd just forget. But I wasn't buying it. The morning she came back, I got a call from her, and I let it ring. Then a voicemail. I listened to it, but I didn't call her back. A few more texts came through. "Ben, where are you? We need to talk. This isn't like you. Please, I don't know what's happening, but I'm ready to talk." Then, about an hour later. "Ben, are you serious right now? I just got home. Why haven't you answered? The doorbell rang that afternoon, and when I opened it, there she was, her face red, her hair a mess, like she hadn't slept in days. She looked frantic, desperate even, but she didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, staring at me. "Ben," she finally said, her voice shaky. "What the hell is going on? Where have you been? Why didn't you answer any of my calls? What's happening?" I didn't move. I didn't let myself feel anything when I looked at her. It was like staring at a ghost. "You know exactly what's going on, Emily." She blinked, her confusion turning to frustration. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been in Vegas with my friends. It's a bachelorette party. It's nothing. You're overreacting." I took a step forward, standing my ground. "No, Emily. I'm not overreacting." I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through the evidence I'd gathered, the photos of her and Tom, the timestamps, the messages. "You're lying to me. And you've been lying to me the whole time." I watched her face go pale when I showed her the screenshots. The ones of her at the pool, laughing with Tom. The ones of them together in the same hotel room, the way they looked at each other. She opened her mouth, but no words came out at first. Then, "Ben, it's not what you think. It's just he's my ex. It's nothing. It's everything, Emily." My voice was cold now, steady. "You told me you were going to Vegas for a girls' trip. But you didn't mention that you'd be spending time with him. The guy you promised me you were done with. You lied to me. And to your family. They deserve better than that." She reached for me, but I stepped back, keeping my distance. "Ben, please. You don't understand. It wasn't like that. I didn't mean to hurt you." "Then what was it, Emily? Why the secrecy? Why hide everything? Why ignore me when I needed you most?" Her face twisted in anger. "You're overreacting, Ben. I don't need this. You're blowing everything out of proportion. I didn't do anything." "No, Emily. You didn't just do something. You destroyed everything. You lied. You betrayed my trust, and you've been trying to hide it all. I'm done." She stared at me like I'd just slapped her. "You're breaking up with me? After everything we've been through? After everything I've done for you?" "I'm ending our engagement, Emily," I said, the words feeling final, like a door slamming shut. "I'm canceling the wedding. I'm done." She opened her mouth again, but this time, no words came. She just stood there, silent, her face crumbling as the reality of it all sank in. "Ben," she whispered, her voice breaking, "please, please don't do this. I love you." "I don't know who you are anymore, Emily," I said, my voice firm, unwavering. "But I'm not that guy. I'm not going to sit here and beg you to tell me the truth. I know what's going on now. I'm done." I watched her as she slowly backed away from me, her eyes wide with panic, but I couldn't bring myself to feel bad. Not anymore. She turned and left, the door clicking shut behind her. The house felt quieter than ever. It was over. I wasn't looking back. The calls started the next morning. At first, it was just a few. Her name flashing on my work phone, the sound of her voice frantic in the voicemail, begging me to pick up. "Ben, please, just let me explain. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to go this far. Please, I need to talk to you." I didn't pick up. I didn't need to hear it. I already knew what she was going to say. But she didn't stop. She called again. And again. The voicemails were the same. Apologies, excuses, promises to fix everything. The kind of words that would have worked on me a year ago, before all of this. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I didn't respond. I didn't even listen to the voicemails after the first couple. I had already heard it all. She was sorry. She didn't mean it. She loved me. I wasn't interested in hearing her lies anymore. But that wasn't the end of it. The next day, I was at a job site, managing a new landscaping project, when I saw her standing in the parking lot, her car idling nearby. My crew noticed her too, and Mike looked at me with concern. "You want me to handle this?" he asked, already making his way toward the front. I shook my head. "I've got this." I walked over to her, trying to keep my voice calm. "What are you doing here?" "I just want to talk," Emily said, her eyes wide and pleading. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, her hair messy, and her makeup smudged. "Ben, please. You can't just ignore me like this." "You need to leave," I said, my voice firm. "I'm not interested in talking." "I'm not leaving until you listen," she snapped, her desperation turning to frustration. My crew was starting to gather around, sensing the tension. I could feel Mike's eyes on me, waiting to step in if it got worse. But I didn't need anyone else to handle this. Emily was my problem, and I was done with her. "Emily," I said, taking a breath, This is over. We're done. You don't get to come to my job and make a scene. This is where I work. These guys are my crew. They don't need to see you like this. She didn't back down, though. Please, Ben. I made a mistake. I've been going crazy without you. I love you, don't you get it? I shook my head, almost feeling pity for her. You don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have lied. You wouldn't have hurt me like this. You wouldn't have gone behind my back with Tom. So no, we're done. Leave. It took a moment for her to process it. And then, she walked away, muttering under her breath. I watched her go, feeling a mix of relief and disgust. But that wasn't the last time I'd see her. It wasn't even close. The next week, things got worse. I started noticing strange activity online. Fake reviews popping up on my business page. At first, it was just one, then a couple more. They were all from accounts with generic names and no photos. One of them claimed, Ben is a fraud. Took our deposit and never showed up again. Don't trust him. Another one was even worse. Ben is abusive. He's not what he seems. Stay away. It made my stomach churn, but I didn't let myself get rattled. I knew exactly where it was coming from. Emily had made her move. She was trying to tear me down. I spent the next couple of hours gathering screenshots, taking notes on the fake reviews, tracking the social media accounts. The thing about Emily was, she wasn't smart when it came to hiding her tracks. She'd used her own email to set up one of the accounts, which was a rookie mistake. I knew I'd have everything I needed to prove she was behind it. Joe called me later that day. Ben, I think it's escalating. I'm hearing some rumors that she's been showing up at some of your clients' houses, saying stuff about you. I felt my blood boil. What kind of stuff? Accusing you of taking deposits and disappearing. Telling people you're shady, that you'll screw them over. Jesus Christ, I muttered, pacing the office. She's lost it. You need to be careful, man, Joe said, his voice serious. She's going off the rails. It didn't take long for things to get worse. That evening, I got a message from a client saying that Emily had shown up at their house and told them I was a scam artist. I called them immediately, explaining the situation, but I could tell they were shaken by the whole thing. They'd already paid a deposit, and now they weren't sure if they wanted to go forward with the work. I was done. This wasn't just some emotional outburst. Emily was actively trying to ruin me, trying to ruin everything I'd worked for. And it was time to protect myself. I contacted a lawyer and started the process of filing a restraining order. I needed to protect my business. I couldn't afford to let her keep attacking me like this, making false claims, spreading lies. She'd already crossed the line into harassment, and I wasn't going to let her destroy everything I'd built. The restraining order was granted quickly, and I knew it was the right call. Emily wasn't just hurting me. She was hurting the people I worked with. And I couldn't let that happen. I wasn't going to let her pull me back into the mess she'd created. She'd had her chance, and now, I was moving forward, on my own terms. The day I met with my lawyer to finalize the restraining order against Emily, I felt a strange sense of calm. I'd been through so much shit with her. The lies, the betrayal, the constant attempts to tear me down. But this was it. This was the moment where I took control. I wasn't running from her anymore. I was setting a boundary, a clear one. The judge signed the papers without hesitation. The order was granted. She couldn't come near me, my business, or anyone I worked with. I'd done what I needed to do. And the weight that had been on my shoulders for so long finally started to lift. The next few weeks were quieter. Emily didn't try to contact me again, not directly. But I stayed busy, focused on my work, on the life I was building for myself. The house was becoming a home. I spent more time in the garden, adding new plants, setting up the outdoor space the way I'd always wanted. It wasn't just a place to live anymore. It was mine, and I was finally starting to enjoy it. I kept my head down at work, too. My business was picking up. The fake reviews had been reported and removed, and clients who had been on the fence about hiring me came back. Word got around that I wasn't the guy Emily had tried to paint me as. Then, about a month later, I met Maria. She was a teacher at the local high school, and she had a quiet, confident energy about her. We hit it off right away. She respected the work I did, understood the boundaries I'd set for myself, and didn't try to push me. She didn't know the details of everything that had happened with Emily, but she could tell I was someone who had been through some shit and was ready to move on. It felt good, being with someone who didn't complicate things. Maria liked simple things, dinner at the local diner, long walks through the park. She wasn't into drama, wasn't into playing games. We both understood that time was precious, and we weren't going to waste it. Then, one morning, I got a letter from Emily. It was in a plain envelope, no fancy stationery or excuses this time. It was just a few short paragraphs, full of apologies. She said she regretted everything. She said she understood why I couldn't trust her anymore, but that she loved me and wanted a second chance. I didn't feel anything when I read it. No anger. No sadness. It was just done. I'd already made my peace with it. I wasn't that person anymore. The guy who would hold on to hope. The guy who would let someone back in after they'd betrayed him. I threw the letter in the trash, and that was the end of it. As I sat on my porch later that afternoon, looking out over the yard I'd built, I realized something. I was finally free. Not just from Emily, but from all the doubt, all the fear, all the guilt I'd been carrying. I was someone different now. Stronger. Wiser. I'd been betrayed, but I'd also learned to trust myself. To trust my choices. I wasn't going to let anyone drag me back into that mess. I'd built a life for myself, and I was going to keep building it. One step at a time, with no more apologies or second chances. This was my time. My future. And no one was going to take that from me again.